Hello everyone, and welcome to another read-along. This is your friendly heads-up warning that we are going to be going into a critical reading of Zenith. That means it will not only contain every single spoiler, but if Zenith is one of your favorite books and you cannot stand to see it ripped apart into little tiny pieces, then this isn't the review for you. See you next time. Thanks for playing. Alright, Adam and I just had a fun conversation about how he's going to take out a large life insurance policy on me and then rig it so my horse accidentally murders me. But we're on to chapter 32. This is what marriage is like, if anyone's wondering. It's what our marriage is like anyway. Humorous conversations about how we do each other in. Chapter 32, Lyra's point of view. So they do have a timer for their mission. It's just back on the ship with the crew. By the way, if you hear weird scrabbling noises, Avi is inside the couch. So now we just get to listen to Lyra worry about her captain and like how much she feels like she's betraying her captain, which we already knew because we kind of got this same thing from her when she was leaving. Not a fan of how much these authors really feel like they have to heavy-handedly drive home all of their characters' feelings all the time. Like, show us what your character is feeling. And they kind of do. They do a little bit, but then they have to just tell you everything. That she's pacing the deck. Okay, that's a great way to show that she's anxious. She glances at the captain's chair. That's a great way to show that she's worried about the captain. You don't need to throw in all of this extras. Not that you should never say how your characters are feeling, but these guys overdo it. I also think these authors are way more interested in their characters' backstories than they are in the things that are happening in this book. Because every time we're with a character, we get memories and musings about their past and their trauma. If your character's backstories are so important to your story that you have to keep expounding upon it, maybe start your book there instead of starting it when all of this important stuff has already happened. Anyway, I'm not saying your characters shouldn't have backstories that you as the author know about and that can play an important part in your book, but you don't need to keep sharing it unless it is important. The characters are praying to the god stars again. We still don't know what those are and who prays to them and why. When you're writing a book like this, fantasy or sci-fi, and you're going to have religion in it, you should probably figure out who worships what and what that means. I've never agreed with a character more. So we just got like 2 pages worth of Lyra just thinking about how much she misses the captain and about her angsty past. And then Gilly pipes up. "I'm bored," Gilly said, interrupting Lyra's thoughts. And I'm like, Gilly, you and me both. This chapter could be a fuck ton shorter if Lyra would stop going on these lengthy thought jags about just useless things. Like, start the story with her pacing on the bridge. She looks at the captain's chair. Then Gilly is like, the captain is 30 minutes late. Have a character say that the captain is 30 minutes late instead of just telling us over and over again. And then Breck could be like, and the captain said that if we, if she didn't come back, we're supposed to leave. And then Lyra's like, I know what she said. And like, let them talk it out and decide what they're going to do. And you can have that decided in like 2 pages. And then have them actually doing something interesting for us, the reader, to engage with, instead of just listening to Lyra moan in her own head about worrying about her captain and her dark past and her friend's dark past. And Cheers! Oh, good. Now Lyra has gone to her quarters where she is alone, and will definitely have more time to think about really boring things. Once again, these authors needlessly give outer spacey names to things. Instead of a birthday, Lyra has an aging day, which is the same thing as a birthday. So you might as well just call it a birthday, unless you want to give it some other really special name. Is the inside of the ship also glass? And if so, like, do they keep it, like, opaque most of the time? Or do people just wander by each other's quarters and see that they're, like, naked or something? This glass ship is very confusing to me. And, like say they're flying around in space and all of a sudden an enemy ship comes up on them and the captain didn't put up, like, the armor or the siding, as I believe it was called. Can the enemy ship just, like, literally look in and see you taking a shower? Thank goodness we're not going to learn any more about the Cataclysm, because Lyra chose not to study it. So, like, we could have at least found out something more about this world and this war that happened. But this character doesn't care about it. So instead we're going to spend more time angsting it up with her in her quarters. Hooray. This is something that you should not tell us. This is something you should show us. Some might say the girls were soulless, but they were Lyra's soul. Don't tell us that characters love each other. Show us that they love each other that much. Like, I don't ever want to hear this in a book. I want to see it. I want to see it play out how much they love each other. If they want to tell each other, like, you are my soul, that's fine. But I don't ever want to just be told this. I hope there's nothing really important hidden in all this useless angst, because I'm skimming now. Here's a fun factoid that I actually enjoyed learning about Lyra. We also learned about her brother and how she was raised, and I do not care. But because her skin heats up, she has to sleep on just a bed made out of metal with no blankets, because sometimes if she has a bad dream, she will set her bed on fire. So, that's a fun fact. I'm here for that kind of thing, not this, like, angst, I don't care about these characters angst. And now the girls come and find her, so her going to her quarters was completely pointless because all she did there was angst. The only thing we got out of it was the fact that she lights her bed on fire sometimes. Yeah, the rest of it, could have just had her on the bridge for that. You don't need to tell us this either. We have frequently seen the character of Lyra partaking in this moon chew, which is either tobacco or gum. Unclear. Closer to tobacco, it seems like. So you don't need to then say, moon chew was her stress reliever. The sickly sweet substance wasn't to everybody's liking, but to Lyra, it was one of her favorite things. We get that. It's very clear. Oh, here's a rather famous line that people like to quote from this book. Hope is a raging asshole, Gilly said. Explain to me, Gilly, Breck said with a sigh, how exactly can an asshole rage? I think those two sentences together are an excellent example of some of the writing in this book. So they're going to have a robot uprising in a very short amount of time because they shut Alfie the robot in the shitter, like actually in like the waste receptacle area or whatever you want to call it of their ship. So he was just like in the poop, and the ship's AI helped him figure out how to escape. So they are 1000% going to have angry robots coming after them. If these robots have any sense at all, they would kill these people. And of course, all three of the characters think it's hilarious that this robot was shut in the poop room. Oh, and Alfie is not very subtly falling in love with the ship's AI. So there's that. I don't know why that's happening or what that has to do with anything, but apparently it's a thing. We made it through that chapter. What a boring chapter. Yawn fest. And the next one's a little bit longer, so I think I'm going to stop here and just read one chapter tonight because we want to watch Good Omens on Amazon. So we're going to do that, which is probably a better story than this.
Most assuredly.
Almost certainly a better story. I don't know.
Of course it is.
I don't know.
Do you want to start a fight?
The book is probably fine. I have not seen the miniseries yet.
Oh, okay.
I have no way of knowing if it's good.
Maybe.
This is how I die, but fortunately he's just taken out a life insurance policy on me, so. Hey everybody, we're back for more read-along, chapter 33, from Androma's point of view. Everyone's here, the gang's all here, Adam's here, Jane is here, Kinshu is here, everybody, Nigel's here somewhere.
Even Avienda's out.
Avi is somewhere, probably inside the couch. So obviously they get killed and revived and pitched out into the corpse pile. And Dex wakes up first, and apparently it is a bit of a corpse pile. Dex wakes up first and he sees Andi and he's like freaking out and like, Andi, can you hear me? Can you breathe? Or whatever. And she's like waking up and she's like, there's this great weight on her chest. And I'm like, oh, it's because she got shot. But no, it turns out that there was a dead person just laying on top of her that Dex neglected to move off of her when he started trying to make sure that she was alive. Maybe my priorities are backwards, Adam. Help me out here. If I was laying there and you didn't know if I was alive or dead, would you first move the dead person off of me before you started, like, trying to wake me up?
Then I would dig you out from underneath the
corpses first.
Probably.
Because he didn't even remove the corpse from her as he's, like, trying to wake her up. And then she's like, something heavy's on me. And it's a corpse. And he didn't take off of her.
I mean, I might be tempted just to, like, prank you and be like, flick your nose or your ear until you wake up with, like, especially if it was, like, a particularly ugly corpse near your face. But,
right here.
I mean,
Adam is worse than Dex. Dex just
Only-
left a corpse on Andi, Adam would have hoped that I would wake up to the corpse. Why am I reading this book with you? We're kind of on a dangerous mission here, honey. We don't have time for corpse-related pranks. Do corpses biodegrade on the moon?
They would desiccate. They'd end up looking like mummies.
Okay, but I guess maybe they wouldn't be that dangerous as far as like diseases are concerned.
No, they're still like if you're a fleshy meat bag and you're next to them and they're a recent fleshy meat bag, yeah. And in fact, like a lot of bacteria.
I suppose because like all of these prisoners come down here with their own bacteria like on them, and then the bacteria probably grow and thrive and eat the corpses and stuff.
Well, once they get into space, they would stop, but the bacteria would still be there, probably in a dormant state, and ready to be brought into a nice, fresh, warm, and moist environment to rebreed and do stuff again.
Where I was going with this is she is definitely going to need some sort of disinfectant shower when she gets out of here. I know it's not supposed to be humorous that she's kind of like buried in dead people, but I think it's kind of humorous because she's like freaking out because she's buried in the corpse pile. I feel like the way that they're addressing the fact that they just died and were thrown on the corpse pile, that this was not 100% part of the plan. We know, as the reader, that that's what was going to happen because you introduced a lady whose job it was to revive dead people. But, like, the characters didn't necessarily know that this was the plan. So what was their plan to leave the prison if it hadn't gone wrong? Like, what was the plan if their timing had been perfect and they had, like, were they gonna leave through the front door somehow? I want to know what the actual plan was. Oh, they're in a corpse pile that's in a ship. They're being transported. So, lucky them. Apparently they were the last 2 corpses, or 3 corpses, I suppose, really, with Valen, necessary to complete this corpse pile run wherever the ship is going. Now, we've been like 2.5 pages and they've forgotten about Valen. Like, presumably he's buried in amongst the corpses somewhere and they've completely forgotten him. The guy who has been tortured for a very long time, barely alive, to begin with, and then thrown into this pile. I feel like they should be more concerned about his whereabouts. Yeah, so they say, but this certainly hadn't been part of the plan. Then what was the plan? Wait, apparently, she didn't even kill them. She shot them with a stun blast. So they weren't even dead. So what the fuck was the point of having a character whose job it is to revive the dead if they're not actually going to use that, but they're still going to escape in a ship of dead people? That's done. We are done. Like, okay, if you're gonna, like, that seemed so obvious and they completely wasted it, and instead they just had her stun them, and somehow them being stunned was good enough to fool all the other guards. She brings back dead people for a living! 3 pages later, they've remembered that Valen is a thing. This book has no balls. That's my problem with it. No balls.
Hey, don't be sexist. No vagina.
No vag. Has no nerve. This book has no nerve. It won't make these characters human in favor of making them over-the-top archetypes. We won't actually kill them, we'll just stun them. Why? Like, make them die and have a lady who brings people back to life bring them back to life. And then we've been reminded just now of how how Dex went to go have sex with Soina and instead just talked to her about how much he loved Andi. Why not let him have sex with Soina? Why not? No nerve, that's why. Wait, I just have to point out that she says, Lyra's probably wearing a hole in the floorboards of my ship with her pacing. So you heard it here, folks. Not only is the ship made of glass, but the floors are made of wood.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
Wood and glass, ain't that what you'd make a ship out of?
It's like a cabin in space. It's like a greenhouse in space.
Have you ever,
Space greenhouse. Somebody do me a picture of one. I need to go get my fries. You can talk to the people while I do that, if you want.
Space Jammer. That's what it is. It's a gnomish ship from Space Jammer.
From Space what?
Space Jam? Space Jammer? It's like a D&D setting, except in space, but like, you're using like gnomish tech and cobbled together magic to make spaceships.
Okay.
I might be getting the name slightly wrong. I only read like 1 or 2 books in it, in the setting.
I have french fries. I like to dip them in ranch because I'm a white lady. I'm a basic bitch. Whoa! We just found something that might be a character arc for Andi 213 pages in. She's still afraid to pilot ships because of what happened. And maybe, as the story goes on, she could overcome that fear. We could have a character arc in this book.
A lie.
Otherwise, I don't know, like, none of these characters seem like they're fit to grow. They seem like the author is like, this is how they are. Aren't they amazing? This is how they shall forever be. That's the end of the chapter. They kill the pilot, and then, well, they break out of their corpse pile, which apparently is really easy to do, because Dex can just do that. And then they killed the pilot, and then Dex took over flying, and they went back to their ship. So, you know, it was a serviceable chapter. There wasn't too much whinging about people's pasts and their horrible memories. And there's some good exposition, because there's just a brief exchange where Dex is like, you're still afraid to pilot ships, aren't you? And Andi was like, don't tell anyone, and that's it. So much better than having Andi go on a lengthy thought cul-de-sac about why, that we know. Chapter 34, from Dex's point of view. Valen just does not matter as a character to these people. Like, we're on the med bay now, and they're getting their, you know, Dex and Andi are getting treated for their various injuries. And we're left to presume that Valen has already been taken care of, and that they are not being taken care of. But we're given no evidence of that yet. So for all we know, starting this chapter, they just dumped Valen in a corner, and are just getting themselves taken care of. Because Valen matters so little that he's not even mentioned at the beginning of this chapter. Yeah, now we just completely skimmed over his presence at all. Presumably he's fine, because Dex goes to the meeting room and is mad that his chair no longer has his traditional ass groove in it. So, that's how important Valen is. He doesn't even get a mention, but Dex's ass groove does. But presumably Valen is alive because he's calling up General Cortez to be like, hey, we got your kid. And the General is, like, pissy at Dex because he's calling in the middle of the night. Like, wouldn't he be like, do you have my son? Is this the call where you tell me that you have my son? How often does Dex call this guy? That this guy is like, fucking Dex, what do you want? Even the General doesn't remember that this is about Valen. I feel really sorry for Valen. I'm sure he's going to turn out to be evil or something. But I feel very sorry for him in this moment because no one gives a fuck about him. He was in a prison where he's routinely almost beaten to death. No one gives a fuck about him. He was incredibly creepy before that, but I don't think being creepy really warrants, like, being beaten to death multiple times, and then, like, your own dad doesn't even ask about you until several sentences into this paragraph. Alright, I think we're gonna stop there. Weirdly, the General doesn't want to see his son, so it's a good thing Andi knew Valen from before, because otherwise, like, they could have just grabbed anybody from that prison. And I'm a little suspicious of the General, but I guess that's not too much to wonder about. The General was like, Dex was like, you should have just sent me by myself to do it, and the General was like, no, you would have been killed. We had to send the Bloody Baroness, to which I answer, how do you know that? Are you watching this entire thing? Did you orchestrate it? I'm suspicious. I'm suspicious of everybody except for Dex because he's too stupid, and Andi because she's also too stupid. Alright guys, I'll see you whenever I read more chapters to you. Tomorrow night for me, possibly mere seconds for you, we'll find out. We're reading chapter 35. Welcome back. We're making some headway now. And we've been able to have Adam here for, like, every single chapter, so that's pretty impressive. Like, people are going to demand that you're there now. In, like, all the read-alongs. Probably not. Nobody cares.
I am such a hot commodity.
I know. Andi is having angst about all the people she killed, because this is her MO. She murders ruthlessly, and then she feels bad about it. But not so bad that she's not going to murder again.
Stop.
But I want to.
We must end and abate this violent destruction. These urges serve no purpose, only to control
they serve
you.
a purpose. I would destroy.
You must control them.
Just try. I am a ferret. No. Do not jump across. You will knock everything down. Which I'm certain does not bother you. but it bothers me. Mwah. Totally skimming. This entire page is just her having angst about the people she's killed. Doesn't matter. Andi has like a creepy eidetic memory for everyone she's killed. So like in her mind, she's not asleep and dreaming, she's just literally daydreaming this. She's daydreaming that she's on a stage dancing her ballet, and all of the people she's killed are coming up like one by one so she can like apologize to them. And she remembers eerie details, like so many tiny details about them. And I'm wondering, like, is that ever going to be addressed, how detailed her memory is? I have a feeling it's not really a thing. It's just to make this scene seem more vivid that she remembers all this stuff.
See, I don't know about for sci-fi, but this is definitely a fantasy trope that the protagonist that murders has to kill people is pained by it, remembers the details and names of everyone they've killed. Like, I don't know.
She remembers, like, their faces in detail and everything, too. I don't know. More fuel for my theory that this should just be a fantasy book, and these authors should have just written a fantasy book. But, like, it is odd that she has such a strong memory, and I think it's because the authors want to paint this very vivid scene of her, but
angst and pain
of her angst and her, yeah.
I've seen it in probably close to a dozen different series and books by now.
So, like, they could use the fact that she clearly has this eidetic memory, but I seriously doubt they're going to. I think it's just for the atmosphere. Finally, Dex has come in to interrupt this wallowing session, and Andi has obviously been crying or whatever, and it says, wet tears still streaming down her cheeks. Dry tears don't normally stream, so you could just say, tears still streaming down her cheeks. Just a
The
fun
wetness
little
is important, dear.
Alright, that chapter was like 3 pages long, and it was all Andi having angst and soul pain. So let's read chapter 36, where hopefully maybe something will happen.
But dear, if you go on to another chapter, you will not give sufficient gravity to their angst and soul pain.
I'm okay with that. That's something I'm willing to, a burden I'm willing to shoulder. Apparently she does this a lot, because Dex is like, were you dancing with the dead again? Yep. Dex should be like, can we talk about how useful your eidetic memory would be? No, we shall not. Ooh, Andi and Dex are finally going to have it out over the fact that they both think the other one betrayed them and left them to die. So, maybe, and Andi told him that he has 5 minutes, and she's looking to keep it, like, short, so maybe we can get through this whole conversation. Yes, the ferret is doing something incredibly cute. Maybe we can get through this whole conversation without too many lengthy flashbacks. A girl can dream. I wish these two would just have an argument. Like, you know how some authors really obviously like writing the dialogue and they forget to put, like, other descriptions in between? These authors are the opposite of that. Like, a character will say something, and there will be whole paragraphs before the other character says something back. And they're supposed to be having an actual, like, argument right now. It should be bam, 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 bam. And instead it's just thing after thing of their feelings.
I just have a lot of feelings.
When you're writing a scene, think of, like, what the tone of the scene is supposed to be. And if it's an argument, it should be snappy and abrupt. And if it's a casual, relaxed conversation, it can be slower. Like, the way that it reads is going to help your reader understand the mood of the situation. We found out why Dex abandoned her, at least in his words. And it was just because he's a policeman and she's a criminal. And, like, maybe when they started dating, he didn't know that she was a criminal, but then he found out, and so he, like, turned her in. I'm waiting for there to be more to it than that. I'm waiting for him to be not telling her the whole truth, because otherwise it really is that he's just kind of an asshole. Okay, so yeah, it sounds like, because he turned her in, and that's how he betrayed her, and then she stabbed him and left him on a moon or something, and that's how she betrayed him. But, like, I don't know, I feel like his is worse. But then again, she was murdering people, and he is kind of the police. What do you think? Who's worse?
Okay, so if Mr. Policey Dude did not know about the murdering up until a point, and then discovered the murdering, and then in wrestling with that whole thing, time lapsed and the person got captured, then murdery chick is worse. Because murdery chicks
Apparently,
stab.
he knew about the murdering. Because she's, like, throwing it back at him how sexy he used to find it when she would kill people. So he knew about the murdering.
Did they become a police officer afterwards, or were they a police officer the whole time?
I think he was a police officer the whole time.
Well, then her betrayal is still worse, but the dude is a hypocrite. And I think, though the betrayal is a lesser betrayal, the hypocrisy is a worse crime, to my mind. Right? Greater flaw? I don't know. It's not really a crime to be a hypocrite, but...
Yeah, I can't figure out what Dex is supposed to be.
Greater...
Like, who he's supposed to be as a person.
Moral flaw?
He's just everywhere. I don't know who he's supposed to be as a person, except for possibly, like, an idiot. Ooh, there might be more to the story. There might be more. Is she gonna put it off? I bet she is, because, you know, narrative tension. He's like, there's more I didn't tell you, and she's like, not tonight. Okay, Dex is just stupid. Dex, you adorable, silly idiot. He was like, somehow, he liked to watch her kill people, but he somehow didn't realize that she was a wanted fugitive until much later in their relationship. And then he was like, I had to turn you in because I found out you were a wanted fugitive, but it's like... How did you not know? How did you not know?
Okay, so what it is they don't mind them being a criminal. But, like, a criminal who gets away with it deserves this amount of respect. And a criminal who gets caught and is known and is wanted does not deserve as much respect.
So he's like, he was not mad that she was a murderer criminal person. He was mad that he ever found out.
Well, that other people found out.
Ah.
It's one thing to be like, I just... badasseried through 10 people and they're all dead. I mean, that's impressive, okay. But even more impressive is to do it in such a way that nobody knows it was you who did it, except your lover, who you intentionally let know because reasons and turn on and stuff.
So like, he was mad that she was wanted.
Yeah.
Oh, there's even more, another twist.
Yeah.
He was also being blackmailed because they had his father for some reason.
I mean, you couldn't just bring that up first?
No, of course not. How would they have tension? He couldn't just walk into the room and be like, hey, Andi, they had my dad. That's why I turned you in. That would be no fun at all. This dialogue is so overwrought and so angsty. If you're really into some serious, like, over-the-top angst, you might like this. I'm not, but, you know, to each their own. Yeah, we mentioned his green blood again, so Dex is obviously a Vulcan. I don't know why his blood is green. Alright, so I guess they got it all out in the open. I didn't think they were going to, but they did. Spoke too soon, they got it all out in the open. Dex was, like, blackmailed, and Andi is still a murderous she-devil, so... But Avi the ferret is incredibly cute.
Indeed.
And that's all that really matters. I don't know, I kind of like Dex, the adorable idiot. He is very angsty in this scene, but he's still kind of an adorable idiot. I don't like Andi at all. I don't find her a compelling protagonist. I don't know, maybe she's not supposed to be likable, maybe she's supposed to be an unlikable protagonist, but pretty despisable person all the way through. So I'm gonna stop here, and we're gonna watch Good Omens instead.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
It's proven to be significantly more entertaining.
And the main characters, one of the main characters is a demon, and I like him better than Andi. Hey everyone, it's that time again. Time to shout out my patrons. Lennox, Amanda, Thelia, Jenny, Joseph, Kim, Lisa, Sabby Panda, Sam, Sarah, Savvy, and Scribbling Cat. Thank you all so much for being my patrons. You guys rock.